4 weeks ago, we left on our very first van life adventure. That was until our van exploded. Something's really wrong. This is bad. Talk about rough start. After returning home from an impromptu vacation, we are finally back to fix our van, so we can finally make some progress on our van build. But let's just hope it wasn't our fault.
Turns out, it was.
Good morning, everyone. Well, we're back from our weekend adventure feeling well rested, but really we can't rest easy until we know what's going on with this van. So this morning, we're headed back to the van, and first we're gonna run some coolant through it to see if it's a leak or see if it's a bigger issue. I know what you're thinking. Is this our second home? Yep. There's so many options.
Yeah.
That one?
It says diesel.
All right, well, we got some coolant. Now it's time to find out if we have a leak. There she is.
So now that we have our coolant / antifreeze mixture here, it's concentrate, which means we have to add some deionized water to it before we put it in the engine. So this can't be stressed enough. Do your own research before trying to copy Colin and I, because really, we have no idea what we're doing.
Literally no idea.
Well, it's definitely empty. And let's hope it's not connected to the AC unit that we cut out.
So we spoke to our trusted Sprinter mechanic. He gave us very specific advice. It could be as small as a coolant leak, but it honestly could be something much larger. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna run this antifreeze through our system and see if we can find any leaks. No leaks yet. Looks good down here. All right, guys, here's the culprit. We are dripping, I think, from the radiator fan. It is dripping down onto this flywheel and then down. I don't see anything else. Just that one.
This was probably a really slow drip that we didn't notice because it was parked on the grass.
It's been parked on the grass this whole time.
So it was probably fine because it was full until it had all leaked out. And unfortunately, that happened just before our trip. But that's okay. We know now.
Okay, so above the fan drive seems dry, so it must be somewhere from that fan clutch. And the only reason I know the name because I just Googled it because I had no idea what it was called. But it seems to be dripping from there. Well, we sent a video to our mechanic. Fingers crossed that it's nothing expensive, nothing crazy. And we're just gonna wait to hear back from him and see what the next step is.
So we figured because we have to wait maybe a couple of weeks to get our van back fixed and repaired, that we would do something a little different.
So we asked you guys on our community page as well as our Instagram. So if you're not following it, go do that right now, Colin and Paige _. Any questions you might have about us, either life or van related, and we thought we'd answer them for you.
We figured this would be a good way for you guys to learn a little bit more about us and about what we have planned. So let's get into it.
How did you two meet / tell us your love story?
Ooh, you do it.
Can I answer this one?
Yeah, you answer it.
Okay, so we actually met serving. I was pouring a beer and Colin walked in and I was like, holy this guy's cute. And then later on, while I was cleaning it, I poured some beer in his eye and the rest was history.
The funny part is about the beer is I'm allergic to gluten. So it was kind of like a panic, but I still feel like she did it on purpose. Got along really well every time we worked together, and we thought each other were super cute. And we would follow each other around the bar, hoping we would bump into each other, just like lost little puppies. And eventually, like as I learned more about her, I knew that she was loved being outdoors, and I would ask her about her favorite hikes in hopes that we would maybe go on a hike together. One thing led to another, and we went for a second hike and then a third, and I knew I was in trouble.
Where will your first trip in the van take you? / what is your dream destination?
So we're hoping to be in the van on our way south in October sometime if we can get the van done. We haven't picked what spot first. All I know is I want to go southwest again after a brief period with Jasmine and Crystal in the south, in Arizona, in Las Vegas or Nevada area. It was so cool. I'm going to say southwest. Anywhere southwest is going to be the first spot.
Anywhere warm. Dream destination. I've never driven across the country. Very high on my list. Would be really cool to do in the van.
I have some like abstract places that I would like to go, but it would be without a van. So like Iceland, Hawaii,
New Zealand,
yeah. Australia, and that's something that may come down the road, which would be more like backpacking travel adventures, and it's something that I hope we could do in the next few years as well.
Do you think van life will be permanent?
In an honest answer, no, because eventually I could see us probably slowing down a little bit and maybe trying to create more of like a forever type home,
like setting down roots somewhere. We'll see what the market says.
Yeah, so and that's another reason why we're doing van life is we're at a time and place in our life where we're looking at the real estate market, and we're like, if you guys don't know, the Toronto area, like Southern Ontario and Canada, is just so incredibly expensive. A starter home is going for like $900,000.
The cost of living in general is just insane.
So we thought, well, let's take this opportunity to travel and live in a small home so that we can actually experience the things we want to experience, because the market is too crazy for us to ever even touch it anyway. So do I think van life's permanent? No, but I could definitely see us doing it for years to come until we find ourselves in a position where we could get something more permanent and start building, maybe even from scratch.
Yeah, I would agree.
Nice. Good job.
Why a van and not a tiny house?
Because Fraser, it has wheels. The idea of us being able to go anywhere at any time with our tiny house is very appealing to us because we have the travel bug. Ever since Paige and I met, we actually have been looking at tiny house videos. Anything that had to do with tiny houses or alternative living, we've been looking at this whole entire relationship. And it's definitely something that I feel will be in play in maybe 3-ish years.
Yeah.
I don't really know. It's hard to make a timeline, but I would imagine we would go from van to building a permanent tiny house on some kind of property somewhere. So
yeah,
the answer is really both, but it just depends when.
It's just the timeline of it all, really. The next one, is this experience what you thought it would be? / with all the obstacles so far, any regrets with embarking on this journey?
No regrets starting this journey. I was actually really impressed with how I felt when I handed over a check, a very large check to buy the van. I had no anxiety at all. Seriously.
That's how you know it's a good decision.
But if you have watched any of our previous videos, all we have to say is buy an empty cargo van. Don't buy a passenger van or a wheelchair van. Well, maybe a passenger van, but not a wheelchair van, because it was so much work just to get everything out of the van. And I don't wish for you to ever experience that, because it was like months of us trying to get that out. Start with an empty cargo van.
What are the pros and cons of building a van yourself versus buying a van already done?
Cost
And customizability.
I would say cost is the big thing that draws a lot of people to building it themselves. Generally, like pre-made camper vans in a similar Mercedes Sprinter van will be about $200,000 USD. And I would say the majority of people building it themselves with a used van is probably looking around like $30,000 to $40,000 USD.
Yep.
And we're talking about maybe $150,000, $160,000 difference.
Yeah, it's just wild. Also, being able to build it how you want it, the features that you want, the layout that you want that works for you. I think going the going the DIY route really makes the most sense.
And of course, if you get a custom builder, you could pick those things as well.
Yeah.
So the next question is, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years?
I hate this question.
This is a hard one.
I think that's really hard to say. 5 to 10 years ago, I don't think I would see myself here.
Especially with me.
Especially with you.
Surprise, I'm a gift.
Yeah, I think that in 5 to 10 years, living a life of, let's say, time freedom, financial freedom, in a sense, and creative freedom would be ideal.
I think that's perfectly vague because I feel like if you're too fixated on a specific destination, you won't be as open to other possibilities. And rather, when we talk about what our life will look like or what kind of life we're trying to build, we talk about what it would feel like. Yeah. And it would be more like, I want to be doing work that is creatively fulfilling and important to me and hopefully make a living doing it.
Yeah.
It's not really about the destination. So
what are your plans for this channel?
So as a longtime filmmaker, I've always wanted to create documentary films. And I know that I don't know if I want to do it the traditional way. And I've always also wanted to be a YouTube creator. I envisioned doing something where it meets in the middle, where I can make documentary films my way, which would be on YouTube. But interesting enough, as I got to know Paige, she had her own childhood dream. Why don't you tell us?
Just very similar, but kind of opposite. I always had a dream of driving across the country on a motorcycle and telling stories about things that were important to me, which are the environment, sustainability, culture, kind of National Geographic style, with the photo and the written word.
Then she met me, and we're like, hey, our dreams, which we came up with independently before we ever met each other,
Yep.
we're on a similar path.
I think it's kind of serendipitous, and that's led us to where we are today.
And that is why we are on your screen right now.
Well, we finally got the van back after quite a little bit without it. And it's all fixed and it's good to go. But our worst fears came true. It was actually our fault the whole time. A pretty expensive repair bill for something that was just a mistake. So it turns out that the AC unit that we removed in the bag weeks ago was actually on the same coolant system, the same coolant loop, if you will, as the engine. We thought to ourselves that it was in a whole different closed loop system and that it wasn't a concern to remove it.
Let's hope it's not connected to the AC unit that we cut out.
I don't think it's attached to that AC unit we removed. Turns out we were dead wrong. Vasilius, our mechanic, had to close the loop in a kind of a MacGyver fashion until we can come back later in the month and fix this back to what the factory would have had it. It turns out that whoever built this wheelchair accessibility van, because usually it's done after the factory by a third party, decided it was a good idea to jimmy rig the coolant system from the engine to work in tandem to the AC unit in the back. Something that we would never thought that they would do. And Vasilius actually said that this van is in really, really great shape.
And what do you think overall? It's pretty good?
Very good condition.
Solid?
Very good condition.
Okay, good.
So in a nutshell, nothing is really wrong with this van. We just made a silly mistake and lost all of our coolant. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for being here with us. I hope you stick around for next week while we try to cut some holes in the ceiling to install our fans, as well as finally work on our subfloor. Because in 1 month from now, we're trying to hit the road again, and we'd like to have an interior done. So until next time, be well.